Hello, Garland Nixon here, and things are not going well for the U.S. empire. Let's do a morning news wrap. Let's talk. Hello, Garland here, and we're going to talk about it's Thursday morning, March 2nd. Let's talk about the news and see how things are looking. My position is the empire is flaming out. And the question is worldwide. There's a question, there's most people recognize right now that the US empire is a farce. It's Monty Python. It's a joke, right? The only question people have is, how does it flame out? How does it go? Does it slowly flame out? Does the bottom drop out? Does it do something crazy and start a nuclear war? That's the only question. People, reasonable people, knowledgeable people who are paying attention to the US they're just shaking their head like, really, this place is a disaster. So what we're going to do is let's look at some news from all over. Let's look at the news. We're going to start here. All right, we're going to start with this. Sanctions on Russia have come back to bite their issuers. That's the first thing we're going to look at. Unlike Western politicians, so we get the sanctions backlash will push the West to accept Russia's demands. That was March 9th, 2022, Moon of Alabama. So let's start with that. The sanctions have come back to bite their issuers. Bottom line is the U.S. came out with a plan. A stupid plan. The interesting thing, I always go back to something. There was a guy named General Tommy Franks talking about a guy named Doug Feith, one of the diehard central members of the neocon cabal in the U.S. And he referred to this guy as the stupidest effing person on earth and said, I got to work with this guy every day. Well, those are the people in charge right now. The Doug Feiths. That's Victoria Nuland. That's Tony Blinken. That's Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is stupider than all of them, but they're all insane. And he's the stupid of us. Well, let me go. It's not just stupidity with this guy. He's an absolute, he's got some serious mental issues with his mental faculties. But bottom line is, the U.S. came up with a plan. The plan was we'll get this war started and then we sanction Russia out of existence. And once the sanctioning didn't work, they don't have another plan. But the other part of that plan was we'll also sanction Germany out of existence because Germany was a threat in that Germany could be a regional power. Let's not forget, the U.S. empire doesn't want two things. It doesn't want world power. It doesn't want regional powers. Germany was a threat to become a regional power. So part of this was to destroy the German economy, and the Germans, God bless them, went along with this suicide pact, and now they're paying the price. And now some of them are waking up saying, hey, this ain't working out so well for us. And some of the others still got their blue and yellow flags. So I say to Germany, maintain course and speed. As we say in Zen, allow a fool to continue in his folly and he will become wise. So you know what? Sooner or later, the Germans will wake up and say, man, we don't have any money. We don't have any jobs. The U.S. has stolen all of our. How'd that happen? And there'll be people like me sitting here to look at them and say, duh, how did it happen? Who knows? I don't know. Could have had something to do with them blowing the Nord Stream pipeline. Oh, no, wait, that was the Russians. That wasn't the U.S. So at any rate, a fool who continues in his folly will become wise. So allow the Germans to continue to accept their place in the hierarchy that was created by the U.S. that's fallen apart. Allow the EU to continue their sanctions and hope that, and I love their plan now. Oh, they've got a wonderful plan. This one's even better and even stupider. Their plan has gone to this. What we're going to do is now, since it's obvious we're going to lose, but we can't tell, obviously Ukraine's going to lose, but we can't tell our schlumpy people that. We can't tell them. We got to maintain them ignorant. The wise people have long ago figured this out, but the poor schlumps that still have their blue and yellow flags haven't. You can't tell them that. So their plan is they're going to allow this to continue to the point where it's obvious that Russia's going to win, and then they're going to negotiate. How do you think Russia's going to negotiate when it's obvious they're going to win? They're going to negotiate like a person who's obviously going to win? They're going to say, oh, gee, well, yeah, we've got a document for you to sign. It's called an unconditional surrender. If you don't want to, we don't have to negotiate, no hard feelings. So they're going to wait. All this talk about a few more things and Ukraine will be ready. They're going to wait until they're in the worst possible negotiating position. And then these genius Einstein people are going to be ready to negotiate. And I have a feeling that Russia's going to be ready too, because it ain't going to be a negotiation. It's going to be called total capitulation. And then what? And then what? Germany today has come out. Well, we'll get to that. It said, well, we don't have much of a military. Here's the other thing they're doing. As they do this, they're giving up all their military hardware and demilitarizing themselves. So once they get to the point that Russia's obviously going to win, and they're going to then need to negotiate, they ain't going to have nothing militarily to back it up. So they're going to be like, yes, negotiate, or we'll do something. And Russia's going to be like, well, I don't know what you're going to do. We already blew up all your hardware in Ukraine. Yeah, well, can you give us a couple of years? We'll make some new hardware. These people are idiots. And that's why, you know what they're getting? They're getting what idiots get. All right, we got more to go. We got more news. We got more news. Let's go to Africa. Burkina Faso scraps military pact with former colonial ruler. Burkina Faso has officially announced a military assistance agreement with renounced it with Paris and given France 30 days to get the hell out. French out. And oh, wait a minute. Burkina Prime Minister Apollinaire Kayalem, whatever, has reportedly declared Russia to be a reasonable choice of a new partner in the fight against the militants. This would make Burkina Faso the third former French colony in Africa to show Paris the door and turn to Moscow for military aid after Mali and the Central African Republic. Well, it certainly appears to me that things ain't going so well in Africa. We got another Africa story. Let's look at this one. If I can find it. Here's another doozy. Africa's message to imperialism: we are not your flunkies. South Africa's participation in military drills with Russia and China is an indication that the global South are not taking orders from Washington. Yeah, that's what we used to call back in my law days, law enforcement investigation and all that stuff days, a clue. Yes, my friends, that is a clue. The South Africans, in a remarkable display of independence, South Africa defied NATO on February 24th when it conducted naval drills with Russia and China on the first anniversary of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Now, it's not just that they did naval drills. They did it on the anniversary of the Ukrainian conflict. So South Africa gave the big finger to the U.S. empire. Burkina Faso's like, French, out. He showed them the door. As my dad would say, don't let the doorknob hit you where the good Lord split you. Get out. And South Africa's like, well, that ain't nearly enough. We got to show the Yankees how we feel about them. We're literally going to have a military drill with Russia and China on the day that the Ukraine conflict started. I think Africa's trying to tell these people. I think the countries of Africa are trying to tell the U.S. empire and their vassals something, and that is, after several hundred years of stealing our stuff, overthrowing our countries, rubbing out our leaders, perhaps we're going to look in another direction now. See, what you got to understand is this. The U.S. empire thought that when they started this crap in Ukraine, that Africa would join with them. They thought they had them at heel. What they didn't realize were the Africans were always looking for an out. They knew. People are like, why is Africa poor? You know what? This is why Africa is poor. They're not poor. You know, what the U.S. wanted to say is Africa, the global South, all these countries are poor because they're genetically, they're culturally, they're technologically inferior to us. No. Yeah, let me give you an example. If I go to the bank and I walk out with $1,000 and you stick a gun in my back and you steal my $1,000, I'm not poor. I'm not out of money because I can't earn it, or I'm not. I had $1,000. I was robbed by a thief, by a criminal. That's why Africa is poor, because the US and the colonial powers go to Africa and steal their stuff and overthrow their countries. What happened with Iran? The UK and the US overthrew Iran. Why? Because Mohammed Mossadegh wanted to take the oil, nationalize it, and use the money to help the Iranians. So the US is trying to do things of that nature in Africa, and the Africans are like, perhaps we see another direction. The Africans are like, get the hell out of here. We'll just hang out with the Chinese and the Russians. And the US are like, well, they don't have your best interest in heart. And they're like, oh yeah, well, thanks for you telling us who has our best interest in heart. Perhaps we'll try to figure that out on our own this time. Get out. So that's the more news we got. All right, we're continuing. Oh, and this is a doozy. The U.S. empire is going down in flames. How about we go here? Just when you thought the EU had it well enough, the U.S. is rallying allies for new China sanctions. Reuters, a proposal from Beijing to end the fighting in Ukraine has been met by ramped up threats and accusations from Washington. Now, just think about that for a second. Think about that for a second. China's like, look, we got a peace plan. The U.S. is like, a peace plan? Did you know? No, you didn't. You did not say peace. You did. Oh no, now there's going to be a price for that. We will not tolerate peace. Peace is not happening. Peace is evil. We got to continue with war. I mean, we're trying to get paid. We're trying to run the war, and here you're screwing it up with peace. No. So now they go to their allies. Don't you love that? They're trying to go to their allies. As an example, Germany. Hey, Germany, yeah. Yeah, I know you're a little short right now of energy, and somebody, who knows who, we don't know anything about it, some miscreant has blown up your pipeline, and most unfortunate turn of events for you. I will give you that. I don't know who did it, and certainly we don't need an investigation. Those crazy Russians asking for an investigation in the UN. Nobody who wants an investigation in the UN. Who trusts the UN? We don't know who did it. Maybe it was the Russians, but at any rate. How's things going with BMW and Mercedes? Yeah, I understand both of those sell between 38 and 40% of all of their cars are sold in China now. Yeah, we'd like you to just give that market up. How about that? All the stuff that you're selling in China, all the money that you're making, the way you're keeping your economy afloat. Yeah, economies. You know what I mean? I mean, who needs them? Yeah, I mean, we got bigger fish to fry here, right? So what we're thinking is this: we all get together and take your biggest market and wipe your economy out. I mean, let's face it, you people still have food a little teeny bit, maybe not a lot, but scraps. And I mean, come on, just think about how much better it will be without those silly people getting in the way, wandering around, eating their Wiener schnitzels, doing stuff like that. We're thinking this. Check out our plan. It's going to be not maybe initially it may not seem like a really good plan, but when you think about it long term, it's great. We're going to cut out your biggest market. Now, you already know we're stealing all of your industry. That's coming to the US and wherever. But now we steal your industry, number one. Number two, we blow your pipelines, or somebody blows your pipelines. Who knows who, but somebody blows your pipelines. Number three, boom, your biggest market out of here. What are you thinking? And you know what? Olaf Scholz will be like, he'll cry, but he'll say, yeah. And at some point, I may be wrong. I suspect at some point the German people may say, I don't think our government has our best interest in hand. So I'm just throwing that out there. I just think that this wonderful plan that the U.S. now has to rally their allies together to wipe out the number one trading partner in Europe may get a little pushback, but keep in mind something. The European leaders know their job. They don't work for the European people. They work for the U.S. empire. So when the U.S. empire says, guess what? Your people still have a few scraps. We need to end that. Macron, Schultz, all of them will say, we don't want to, but we don't run this place anyway. So what the hell difference does it make what we want to do? The answer is yes. And then the European people will wake up, no food, no money, no economy, no nothing. If you want to know what it's going to look like, watch like World War Z or Dawn of the Dead. That's what the U.S. empire is doing. That's where they're taking the EU. Done. Dystopian hellscape. There we go. So the US says, we got a new plan. The first dystopian hellscape plan for Europe had a few holes in it, but it's working pretty well. But now we're going to turn up the volume on that because you guys may have some bread left. You may have some crumbs left. That's got to stop. So the US has a brilliant plan, and it's going to involve screwing the people of Europe even worse. And of course, the European leaders are down with that. I mean, come on. Hey, when the US calls like Macron and Schultz, and they're like, hey, we want to completely destroy your economy, and we want to screw over the European people, and they're going to say, stop, 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 stop. Whoa, no more. You had us at screwing over the European people. You don't have to go anymore. Screwing over the European people, that's just what we do, man. That's all we do is we screw over these people. We don't work for them. I mean, they voted us in, but wink, wink, we know how that really goes. So bottom line is screwing over the European people. Yeah, and we're the, quote, European leaders. Yeah, we're down. We don't even need to know what the plan is. All we need to know is we screw over the European people. Now, please tell us that somewhere in here, all of our industry goes to you, and the people end up in the street hungry, out of work, and in severe economic pain, probably homeless, just completely wiped out. We want to go back to the days of peasantry, man. Just think about it. They're making Europe great again. Back in the days when 95% of the people in Europe were peasants, like 2% were nobility, a few that's maybe 5, 6, 8, 10% were commoners. Let's go with 85% peasants. Starving, hungry peasants. And if you think about this, Europe, I mean, now the noble class will own the land. You'll get sold with the land. You'll have to get permission if you want to get married, things of that nature. So, hey, Europe is going to be made great again. The European, the US and the European leaders are going to take you back to a wonderful time when you get to be peasantry. Back to the feudal class for Europe. Yes, sirree, no way around that. All right, here's what we're going next. Let's go to the Middle East. Ooh, this don't look pretty. War should be wiped out, says the Israeli minister. The far-right leader, Bezalel Smotrich, says the state should destroy the Palestinian town, not civilians. How's that work? Well, let's go here. The leaders of Israel have pretty much lost it and collapsed. Israel's pretty much collapsed into fascism. Let's be honest, what's going on there? It's collapsed into fascism. They've got this thing. The people are like, the government is like, has settlers wandering the streets of the Palestinian communities, burning cars, doing pogroms, shooting innocent people like madmen. These settlers are just wandering around like madmen, slaughtering innocent people. Number one, you've got like Netanyahu and his people in charge, and here's what they're doing now. They're literally passing this law that says anything that the courts find, if the courts make a finding, that the Knesset, they can then overturn it with a simple majority, which means you don't have any courts. What's the point of courts? The courts come out and say, hey, Netanyahu, you're guilty of a crime. The Knesset can say, 51% say he ain't guilty of a crime. He's out. Well, you can't do this to Palestinians. 51% vote. There you go. Yes, we can. Which means it's a lawless society. They're turning this thing into a lawless society. Now, there's 100,000 people in the street, or there's thousands, tens of thousands of Israelis are in the street. For what? What's the point? Are they trying to pretend like it's some kind of a democracy? Are they trying to keep up the facade? Why bother? That's what your country has collapsed into. Accept it. Celebrate it. Live with it. Because this project, the U.S. empire, is falling apart. And you know where? The seams are falling apart. When something falls apart, sometimes the outer seams fall apart, starting with the EU. The EU's outer seams, as we said, it's collapsing. And now they're going to go, it's going to fall back into feudalism. Israel is just collapsed into madness. And now the people in the street are running around saying, hey, we know you're screwing over the Palestinians, but hey, we don't want the same treatment. Just screw over them, but not us. You walk around and poop all day. At the end of the day, you're going to have poop on you and you're going to smell like poop. That's what the Israeli people like. They want a government that's fascist towards other people, but ain't fascist towards them. That just ain't how it works, guys. So on we go to the next story. We're covering the news. We're covering the news. One of the things, Putin gets ready for meeting with Xi Jinping. Okay, so what's going on here? What's going to happen next is the leaders of China and Russia, the two very, very powerful nations. China, powerfully economically and very militarily powerful. Um, Russia, with some of the highest, best military technology in the world, are going to come together for a meeting. Russia also happens to be the #1 commodity country in the world, all the commodities you could possibly dream of, and they are more unified than ever. I mean, you could put up a cardboard picture of Putin in a stadium and draw 150,000 people in Russia right now. So the people in Russia are thrilled with their leader. They're thrilled with what he's doing. They feel that he's defending them. And if you look at the reality of what the neocons want to do with Russia, I would definitely agree with them. And now the one thing that the Russians, that the crazy neocons here have always said, whatever you do, you don't want to do one thing. You don't want to drive Russia and China together. And the one thing that they've done is created an alliance between Russia and China that is an unbreakable bond. Why? And why? They have no choice. You're trying to kill them both. Somebody comes in the room, me and my friend Bob sitting there. Me and my friend Bob are okay. We've been getting along, sometimes not, but overall we've been. And some guy walks in named Phil. And we go, how you doing, Phil? Hello. What are you here for? I'm here to kill you and Bob. Bob and I will probably look at each other and say, perhaps we should form a pact. Come to think of it, Phil wants to kill me and you, Bob. I think we should have a talk as how the two of us are going to work to make sure Phil doesn't kill us. That it doesn't take Einstein to figure that out. You don't need the theory of relativity. You don't need a bunch of scientists to come together and spend 1,000 years coming up with formulas to figure out that if Phil wants to kill Garland and Bob at some point are going to figure out that maybe if they work together, they can both benefit by not being killed by Phil. But you and I can figure that out. But the neocons are not wise enough to do it. No, they're not smart enough to do it. What they'll do is they'll say, hey, Phil, do me a favor. Hold my coat while I kill, excuse me, Phil. The neocons would be Phil. They'll say, hey, Bob, hold my coat. Really, what are you going to do? I'm going to kill Garland. Well, what are you going to do when you get finished killing Garland? I'm going to take my coat and cover Garland's body, and then I'm going to kill you. And Bob would say, I don't like that plan. Can we come up with a different plan? And Phil would say, nah, well, okay, I can do it the other way. I can have Garland hold my coat, then I can kill you. Then I can cover your body, and then you get it. And at some point, Garland and Bob are going to go, perhaps we need a plan, guys, and it don't involve Phil killing either one of us. And the neocons are like, befuddled. I don't know what's going on. Hey, there's something's wrong here. Our plan's not going ahead. And they haven't stopped. Phil hasn't stopped to think. I got a knife. Ha ha ha. But Bob and Garland both have knives. And they got 2 knives. And I only got 1. And they got 4 arms and 4 legs. And I only got 2 and 2. If Garland and Bob come up with a defensive plan to stop me from killing them both, which I've written books that said I was going to kill them. I've made statements that said I was going to kill him. I got white papers that said I was going to kill him. I've made it clear I'm going to kill them both. That if they come together and say we ain't going to let you kill us both, then I can't kill them both. The neocons, I'm sorry, that's far too deep thinking. That's deep philosophical thinking when it comes to the ideologues. And the neocons, nah, they ain't there. But I think Russia and China have kind of figured that out. All right, let's move on. We got to go through the news. And let's go to, how about we do this? And House overwhelmingly approves resolution to maintain Syria sanctions after the earthquake. Only Representatives Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene voted against the resolution. So what do you got? Syria has had an earthquake. The world's watching. Perhaps the U.S. government doesn't realize this. The world's looking at you. So these people have had an earthquake. They got tens of thousands of dead, starvation, disease floating around, cities that turned to rubble, and the entire Muslim world is like, the Egyptian foreign minister has not been in Syria since 2011. He recently visited Damascus. All of these Muslim leaders are coming together saying, hey, man, we got to help our brothers here. Oh, this is because you know why? Because they're humans. Because they are human beings and they have some feelings for other human beings. So people around the world are going, oh my God, the poor Syrians, we got to do something to help them. But not the US government. No, sirree. The US government's like, hey, the Syrians need help. They've had an earthquake. What do you want to do? So you're telling me they're in pain? Yeah. They're in trouble? Yeah. They're down? Yeah. Kick them, stomp them, beat them. Woo! We got them now. They are down and hurting. And the world's like aghast. The world's like, you got to be kidding me. So when they're in trouble, but people forgot during COVID, what did the US do? Cranked up the sanctions on Venezuela, on Cuba, on Iran. They were like, hey, we're having some problems here with COVID. You think you could ease up on the sanctions? Oh, no, we're going to crank down on them. We're going to make it even more difficult for you. Wouldn't want to help you out in any way. When you're down, kick them. So the US empire is demonstrating to the world that it is a vicious and brutal monster with no empathy for others. No empathy because, let's face it, sociopaths and narcissists and psychopaths don't have empathy. So the world's looking at them like, really? Really? And now, you know what the US is going to do? They're going to go back to the Muslim countries next. Afterwards, they're going to go back to Muslim countries and go, hey, guys, can you do me a favor? We need you to pump more oil or pump more or less oil or whatever. Why? Because it benefits us. Come on, benefit us. What about these poor Muslims that are hurting? Screw them, stomp them and kick them down. The world is watching. And these idiots, lunatics, and psychopaths and sociopaths that are running the US don't realize that the world's looking at them. So there we go. Let's move on to our next story. It's this is going to be shocking to the world. India unwilling to condemn Russia and Lukashenko holds talks in Beijing. India. Now, let me just say this. Let's go back to these psychopaths. The US is making it clear. It's the Wolfowitz doctrine, right? Any country that tries to grow enough to be a regional power or a world power, we will attack them in every way we can with a full spectrum attack and attempt to destroy them, to destroy their economy, destroy their culture, to replace their government with puppets and steal all their resources, because no one can challenge our supremacy, starting with China and Russia, and of course, Iran and Venezuela, blah, blah, blah. We already got it, right? And India is sitting there like, so what you're saying is, let's just say we had a country with 1 billion or so people. And let's just say that country had a lot of very, educated people, a lot of labor, and had aspirations to be a world power. What do you think would happen to that country? And the US is like, we'd kill them. We'd slaughter them. We'd sanction them. We'd destroy their economy. We'd wipe them out. We'd crush them mercilessly and without empathy. We would destroy them. And India's like, yeah, that's kind of what we thought. In this particular scenario, we're talking about us. And the US is like, yeah, no, we didn't really mean that to you per se, at least not right now anyway. We're bigger fish to fry. But at some point, we will revisit that. Trust me, we will revisit this conversation at some point. And the Indians are like, oh boy, yeah, well, in that case, we're going to roll with Russia and China here because, our day is coming. And we figure if we can avoid it, we'll do that. So India has figured them out, and India ain't going along with the game. All right, we're going over the morning news. We're going over the morning news. Zelensky advisor says Ukrainian forces might pull out of Bakhmut. The head of Russia's Wagner Group says still no sign of Ukrainian withdrawal. Let me just put it to you like this. So they may pull out of Bakhmut. That is the Ukrainian town that seems to be nearly encircled by the Russians. They're coming out of there one way or the other. Okay. At this point, they're damn near encircled. So at some point in the future, those Ukrainian troops are coming out of Bakhmut. It's up to them how. It may be too late for them to withdraw, but they can make an attempt at withdrawal. I suspect it ain't going to be a pleasant withdrawal. I suspect it'll be a withdrawal in the midst of artillery everywhere. So they may be trying to get out. If they don't, at some point, they will be encircled and they will have an option. They can stick up a white flag and go in as POWs if the US, if Russia allows them to do that. They can stand there and fight to the last man, and then they could all come out in body bags. They're coming out at some point in time. It's just a matter as how. So they may pull out of Bakhmut. The only thing that's being determined now is how those forces leave. It's how those Ukrainians soldiers leave Bakhmut. But they're leaving Bakhmut, and that's where we are now. And again, the U.S. empire started this thing with the idea that somehow they could hurt Russia, they could defend, they could weaken and defeat Russia. And the problem they have is it's existential to Russia. Russia's on their border, and Russia's going to fight, fight, fight. They ain't going nowhere, and they ain't going to stop fighting. There we are. And now another mess, another fine mess they've gotten themselves into. Let's do this. If there ain't enough. Will the U.S. invade Haiti just to stop Jimmy Barbecue Cherizet? Well, let's just say, so Jimmy Barbecue Cherizet is their lies. And you're going to find it shocking that the U.S., that Biden and these guys and Blinken and these guys would lie, but they want to control Haiti as always. So what are they doing? There's a guy named Jimmy Barbecue Cherizet, and his nickname is Barbecue. Why is his nickname Barbecue? Well, according to the U.S. lie machine, it's because he used to barbecue people. According to the people in his community, it's because when he was a kid, his mother sold barbecue on the street to make money. That's what the people in his community say. I'm guessing they probably know better than Tony Blinken. And Tony Blinken would say, give Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping the nickname Barbecue and say they barbecued people. So, whatever. So the bottom line is, here's a guy that lives in his community, that doesn't have any guards, that wanders around the community, that the people like him. And what is he doing? If you really research Jimmy Cherizet, he's just a revolutionary kind of guy. He wants change. He doesn't like the economic pain that his country is being put through. He doesn't like the fact that the US and Canada and France are holding them back, or stealing their resources, or treating them like crap. And he's like, I don't think this should happen. I think we should be able to chart our own course. Imagine that. Can't imagine that the US would ever see a country saying that and then make up a lie about people in this country that are fighting back and then try to invade and overthrow their country. Yes, that's an example. The U.S. everywhere. If there are people on the moon, the U.S. would be trying to overthrow them. So the U.S. is like, yes, these African people over in Africa, they need to do what we're telling them to do, and we've got to invade their countries and overthrow their leaders. What about the EU? Those idiots. We already got their stinking leaders controlled, and we're starving them appropriately. Now, Asia, Russia, China, we're having a time with those, but we're working on that. Haiti, it's on the planet, so we got to control it. Oh, they don't have a big military and stuff. Guess we'll have to invade and steal all their resources. They got some gas and oil and gold and things like that. That stuff's got to come back to the U.S. empire. There's companies that got to make a fortune out of it. The poor old Haitians, if they can't defend themselves, we'll take it. That's the U.S. If you can't defend yourself, we'll take it. But first, you got to do it. You got to come up with a lie. You got to come up with some kind of the liberal interventionist lie that says we're doing it for the good people of Haiti. We got to help the people of Haiti. Why this guy is evil? Isn't it interesting that the Haitian guy is the evil guy? The Haitian guy who says, hey man, we need to be able to chart our own course and look out for our own people. He's the evil guy, but the US and the Canadians who say we should attack your country and then we should control it. The puppet leader that we put in charge, that guy's the one that, should be in charge of things. You as, perhaps somebody that the people might choose, that can't happen. Yes, sirree. So if you want to know what's going on in Haiti, just look what's going on in the rest of the world. Just look what's going on in the rest of the world. If you want to know what the U.S. plans for Haiti, if you want to know about their lies about Jimmy Barbecue Cherizet and everything else, simply look at the rest of the world and it won't be long to figure it out. All right, let's see. We got anything else? Here we go. I don't know if we covered this one. Germany cannot defend itself, according to the defense minister They said, we have no armed forces that are capable of defending the country, capable of defending it against an offensive, brutally waged aggressive war. I don't even think they can do it against an offensive, not so brutally. So here's what they did. Don't think this is an accident. The U.S. did that. The U.S. is like, yeah, Germany, number one, first of all and foremost, we're going to occupy your country. Second of all, you got some arms, don't you? Yeah, give them to Ukraine because we want you defenseless. So they're like, okay, yes, master. Oh, by the way, we're going to blow up your damn pipeline. Yes, master. The pipeline's blown. Everything they got goes to Ukraine. The U.S. is like, you got any tanks left? We got a few that we can defend ourselves. Shut up, giving them Ukraine. But the Russians are going to blow them up. Yeah. Oh, you figured that out there, did you, Einstein? Yes. Give them up to the Ukrainians. The Russians will blow them up. Well, what are we going to do then? We won't. We're kind of poor right now. Our economy's not going well, and we're going to be defenseless with no military armaments. Well, that's easy. You're going to buy more from us. Yeah, but we don't have the money to. Well, borrow it. Shut up. You know what we'll do? We'll take your ports. We'll take your air fields. We'll take your stuff. You know what? If you can't afford to buy it, we'll barter. Give us every damn thing you have. We want your country. Shut up. Okay? So we're blowing your energy source. You're giving all your crap, your military hardware to Ukraine, and you're buying the rest from us. Shut up. And then you'll be broke and your people will be starving. They won't even have a mouthful of bread. And the German leadership will be like, hey, that sounds like a great idea. Let's go for it. Yep, that's the plan for Germany, and a very successful plan so far. All right, let's look at the super chats. We're looking at the super chats. We're going to the top to the super chats. Yeah, Germany's, man, they're screwed, blued, and tattooed. They're done. Germany's toast. They're like the first to go. And you know, all right. Tatiana, super sticker. Thank you, Tatiana. And we're continuing to go. Who next? Eduardo says, if there were any justice, Western powers wouldn't be allowed in Africa for at least the next 1,000 years. That's coming. Oh, my friend, that's coming. Because they're going to drive them out, and they're going to eventually, you'll see Russian, Chinese bases all over Africa, and you'll see the African countries as they're able to make a decent amount of money and improve themselves. They'll build their own bases. Europe's on the bullet train to serfdom. Yes, they are, my friend. They're on the elevator to hell, straight down. They're on the elevator going down to serfdom. The Iranian Putin says Biden like retirement home broccoli. Yeah, he doesn't. This guy's mumbling. He doesn't even know what he's saying. Rolocat, thanks a lot, Rolocat. We're continuing. Who we got here? A different perspective says C-19 may have been leaked, but not by China. Like saying Russian blew up Nord Stream. Ukraine Wuhan labs funded by U.S. means ran by U.S. NOT beneath them. Bottom line is this, you know, there's a lot going on. I mean, remember the anthrax, and they said Saddam Hussein did it, and we found out it came from a U.S. lab. Look it up. Look up the name Bruce Ivins. The guy that they pinned it on was a guy named Dr. Bruce Ivins. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure he had a patent for some kind of anthrax, right? So they said this guy, Bruce Ivins, he's the guy that did it all. He's the guy that mailed the anthrax. He's the guy that sent it out. He's got to be prosecuted, and he committed suicide. Isn't that interesting? How convenient. Nobody could ever talk to him or anything because he committed suicide. Now, let me add this. It's interesting that just before this whole thing happened, they had this big, what was it, a military exercise that they had in Wuhan? Look, the U.S., via EcoHealth Alliance, was at Wuhan. So the idea that the Chinese did it, look, here's a possibility. We don't know what happened. We don't know anything for sure. But one thing that we know for sure, and that is that the U.S. did have companies that were working at Wuhan, that were working on coronavirus stuff. So if in fact there is a leak, it was leaked or whatever happened, however it got out of there, the United States I can't see a way where they can say we can be held blameless. So I agree with you there. There's something fishy going on here. And it's simply now they're like, hey, look at the Chinese. They did this. And they know that all they have to do is like make it real stupid and easy to understand, even though it's false. And the American people will like hang their drooling mouths out. Yeah, duh, yeah, China, look, a balloon, COVID. Oh. How pathetic. Sparky, Nixon Door 24. Thanks a lot, Sparkster. Anything else? We got anything else? Any more super chat? Oh, how about we go next to Eric Suarez? Garland, the United States is funding and pushing a colorful revolution in Mexico. Oh, absolutely. Keep an eye on the matter because they're getting more aggressive every day. Absolutely. AMLO is standing up for his country. That cannot be allowed. Sparky, you mean Blinken's condescending white man's burden diplomacy isn't working on the global south? Yeah, how about that? No, it ain't. Radov Drobjanak, thank you. Raphael says, U.S. remind me of the moment before the fight between Foreman and all. People were talking about how big and strong Foreman was. Both were his demise. That's right. A big lumbering guy. R.I.P. Lily, probably killed by Memphis Zoo. Oh, no. Poor Lily's done. All right. Greetings from Ukraine, Garland. Thanks for being honest and telling the truth. Thank you, and be careful. We love you. We're looking out for you. Next, let's go. Oh, we got some people. Geography Pro on Rockfin says, some lefties be like, have you accepted socialism as your Lord and Savior while rejecting the sins of capitalism before participating in our upcoming anti-war rally? You fascist, racist, bigot, very disappointed in them not knowing the difference between a crusade and a coalition while being useful idiots for the CIA's infiltration like the likes of Herbert Marcuse. I don't know who Herbert Marcuse is, but look, bottom line is I'm with you in that we have to clearly identify areas in which we can work together. And I think stopping a nuclear holocaust is an idea, is an area that everybody should be able to come together on. Apparently, some people can't. Hey, Tamara Gus Leister says, Gelsleister, thank you, Garland, for your great work. Thanks, Tamara. What a great name. Did I miss anybody? All right. I think that's everybody. And did we miss any more super chats? Let's go to Moon Dragon. Moon Dragon says, your comment on the recent Ukraine attacks. Well, I mean, look, it's a war, and it's like saying some people are in a fight and a punch is thrown. What do you think about that punch? I think they're in a fight and somebody's going to win the fight. Okay, an elbow's thrown. Wham! What do you think about that elbow? A chop. Pa! Oh man, that was a big chop. Well, at the end, it doesn't matter how many punches or chops or whatever it does. Guess what? At the end, the only thing that matters is who wins. So Ukraine is going to attack and Russia's going to attack and the US is, but in the end, the only thing that matters is who wins the fight. Anybody else? We've already covered. All right, guys and girls. I think that's it. I think that is it. Shout out to George Foreman. Yeah, isn't that weird? He named all of the kids George. I guess that's easy. Hey, George. And all of them come at the same time. You don't have to do anything. Raphael says, I can tell you one thing. France will not lose Paris for trying to defend Germany. Let's hope. I think the French people are going to be one of the first. I think we're going to see like a bit of a revolt in Europe. And I think the French are going to be at the forefront of it. I really believe the French are going to get sick and tired of this crap, and they're already getting there. And I think they're going to be at the forefront of this. And I think the US is going to have a whole lot of trouble dragging other countries into a crisis with China that will destroy them, that will completely annihilate their economy. So I think you're right. I think France is going to be at the forefront of that. I think the French are going to push back. And I think that's it, everybody. All right. Thanks a lot. Wow, 10 o'clock. And that was 44 minutes. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Don't forget. I'll end by saying the usual. If you can help the channel, we've got PayPal, we got Patreon, And follow me on Telegram and Patreon. If you can do $3, $5, $10, or $100 a month, anything you can to help on Patreon is great. If you don't want to do Patreon, we got PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee. Don't forget rockfin.com. Follow me there. And of course, I've got my Cash App information there. If you can, I would advise everybody to go to rockfin.com. It is a great free speech platform. You know, I love Rockfin. I promote it. It's a great free speech platform, and it has no advertisements, which isn't that great? No advertisements. So you can go to Rockfin, watch me there, and you don't have to deal with advertisements. Rockfin.com/Garland Nixon. And you ask yourself, well, how do they stay on the air if they don't have any advertisements? And it's free speech, and they don't censor. The way they do it is they allow for subscribers. $14.99 a month for a subscriber, or if you join for a year, they give you a few free months, and it becomes considerably cheaper. But if you can't afford that, I understand. What do you get for that monthly subscriber? Well, you get to help keep a great uncensored platform on the air, and B, I do every Wednesday from 9 to 10 a.m. I do a subscribers only show with the one and only Scott Ritter, and that's for subscribers only. So you get that also. So that's a great thing. And of course, you help keep us on the air. So if you can afford it, fine. If you can't, don't do any of this stuff. If you can't afford it, keep your money to yourself and your family. If you can, appreciate you helping the channel. Anything? Did I miss any more super chats? I don't think I did. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.